Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Kobe Bryant has hit a shot at the buzzer.
Move, Captain. I won't ask a second time.
I've learned is to always keep going, always. You know, there's been times, particularly early in my career, where it just feels like this is the end. But what I've come to find out is that, you know, no matter what happens, the storm eventually ends. And when the storm does end, you want to make sure that you're ready. And so I've really learned to put one foot in front of the other, good, bad, or indifferent, because eventually that storm passes.
My problem was to answer questions. And I did that to the best of my ability at all times. I liked what I was doing. I liked work. I liked the stars and stories we were telling. And it was a joy.
And then I said to myself, well, this is it. And I looked straight ahead again. And something said to me, go for it. And I opened my mouth and I started speaking.
We march today for jobs and freedom. But we have nothing to be proud of. Hundreds and thousands of our brothers are not here. For they're receiving starvation wages or no wages at all. Those who have said be patient and wait, we must say that we cannot be patient. We do not want our freedom gradually, but we want to be free now. The time will come when we will not confine our marching to Washington. We will march through the South, through the streets of Jackson, through the streets of Danville, through the streets of Cambridge, through the streets of Birmingham. We must say, wake up, America, wake up, for we cannot stop, and we will not and cannot be patient.
I'm Elijah Goss.
I'm Elias Goss.
And this is a letter to Dr. King.
In 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. stood in front of over 250,000 people and shocked the world with one of the most influential speeches in civil rights history. It was one of the first times in history where thousands of people of all races and cultures stood together under one cause. Shortly after, he was taken from this earth too early by the hatred he sought out to destroy. It is now the 21st century, and 50 years have passed, and if I could write a letter to Dr. King, I'd tell him that although he did not live to see his dream come into fruition, that today we're closer than ever to achieving that dream. I tell him that a lot has changed. I tell him that I saw a little black girl and a little white girl playing together as if they were colorblind. I tell him that I, a little black boy, walks the same halls as my fellow white classmates. I tell him that any sour idea of a black man, child, or woman sitting in the front of the bus is not even fathomed. I tell him that a man of pigment has touched the moon, and an African-American man has led America for 8 years as the President of the United States. I tell him that the first black president is a woman. I tell him that entire industries and businesses have stood behind us. I tell him that the problem of racial injustice is at the forefront of society. And I tell him that for years there were marches by the millions all holding up one sign: Black Lives Matter. I tell him that the use of new technology has helped in exposing and rooting out racism on a monumental scale. I tell him that the deaths of little black boys and girls are fought over rather than forgotten. But I would also tell him that the fight isn't over yet. I tell him that the oppression of the past has taken a new form, hiding other badges and titles, oppressing us through systematic racism in schools, jobs, hospitals, and the court of law. But the black community is stronger than ever, thanks to you and others like you. I tell him that the phrase black and proud is an understatement to the level of who we are. Our skin is now a symbol of strength and beauty rather than fear and disappointment. Our skin stands for respect and equality and is represented in light in today's society, instead of being forced to hide behind the shadow of a white man. I tell him that for many of the sons and grandsons of the enemy of your term are now allies in today's world. I tell him that many of the white men have acknowledged their ignorance and understand that they can never comprehend the hardships we went through and are still going through. I tell him that all the miles marched, all the time behind bars, all the words spoken were not in vain, because now, not only the black community, but the entire world, from the mountains of Asia to the Amazons of South America, have joined us in the cause that you once stood for. I tell him that black culture and history has been embraced in all aspects and is now remembered to empower young black men and women and to show them how far we have come and how resilient we are. And finally, I tell him that even though we are not here to see it, we are on our way to the promised land.
Mr. Anderson has gone above and beyond this year with making sure every student is equally represented at East. He set up a space for student groups to express themselves and show they exist within the East community. He not only provided the space and materials for the mural, but fixed them when they were vandalized. BSA thanks you for all you have done for minority students and other students at East this year.
Miss Roan started her teaching career at East in 1977. She has dedicated her career to making her classroom a place where students are both heard and supported. Miss Roan has single-handedly been an advocate for youth social change both inside and outside the classroom. She created the Honors African American History curriculum. In 2004 and 2020, she put together service trips for students to go to Ghana. She was also named Queen Mother in the village of Osbornia. In her 44 years of teaching, she has influenced her students to become president of the Colorado Senate, the richest black man in America, agents and managers in both Hollywood and New York, famous artists and singers, but most importantly, some have even become teachers. Miss Roan, thank you for all your sacrifices and wonderful things you do for your students as well as others you come into contact with. Thank you for influencing generations of students. Your inspiration, stories, joy, and laughter will live and echo the halls of East High forever.